Again, keeping things sort of similar. I'm not following the curvature of these little guys because we are going to add in the topology for that. Okay, and I can definitely tell, well, we're going to need to add some more edges that run down the face. So let's start with something like 2. Another thing to throw in is if you're starting with the head, we're going to have all of these extra edge loops, right? And so we're working with, let's see here. Right now we have 11 verts, which technically would be 22 because it's being mirrored. And I may not want all of these verts running all the way through down the body. So when you get to a certain point, you will have to say redirect these edges. So I may want to close these in so that way it doesn't go all the way down the body. So now instead of working with 22, I have 20, and you continue redirecting edges like that. But you have to be sort of smart about it, how you do it. I'm not going to explain too much of that right now. I'm just showing you how to add in these sort of bumps. Okay, so you have the eyeball. So what I'll do here is I don't really like to extrude right from the top. So I'll usually have an edge to sort of space that out a little bit for me. But we might have the eyeball, somewhere about here. We'll go ahead and inset, turn that into a circle. Let's just say rotate it. You might throw in a few edge loops because, when you sculpt, you'll want some topology in there to support that. So I'll just throw in, say, 2. And of course, I love to use the smooth tool, so we'll soften that area. We also have the nostril down here, which we'll go ahead and add. We do need to soften this. And we haven't modeled the mouth out, but I don't think we'll get to that in this video at all. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. But we'll just throw the nose in somewhere about here. Same idea. You'll definitely want to form the shape of the nostril, however that looks. Maybe it looks kind of like a teardrop. I like to hop into sculpt mode and with the grab brush, just sort of play around with the form. And I'll also use the smooth brush quite a bit. And instead of using Laplacian, I'll use surface. So that way it nicely softens everything out for me without disturbing the form too much. Just kind of spaces out the faces a little nicer. All right, so let's start thinking about these horns finally, right? So I don't want to extrude too close to the eyeball or anything like that, especially anything that we've already insetted, because you'll create this pull. Again, you'll have 6 edges meeting into one vertex, and that won't give you the cleanest results. So either you add in an edge and then you extrude, or you just select, let's just say, these 2 faces. Now, you might need to consider how many faces do you need to actually extrude? Is it like one long strip? Or again, are these little ridges in the center? So For this example, I'm going to assume that these horns, I'm just going to call them horns. I know they're probably not horns, but they're a little bit towards the outside, right? They're kind of near the eyeball, but I'm going to add in an edge loop right about here. Hopping into our right perspective, let's make sure we have the correct extrusion area. I added in another edge, so I'm going to add another edge down below. And I could probably pull this edge around and sort of space things out a little bit better. So maybe about here, and actually having 4 faces selected gives us a good amount of topology. Now you can extrude, or you can try insetting and then extruding. Either, like, it doesn't matter which one you actually do, because you could soften the inset out, and yeah, you'll see in a sec. So I insetted, so I'll just go ahead and grab and scale.
Sweet.
And let me redo that. So inset and extrude, scale, pull out to about there. And then, like I said, you could always soften this just like that and play around with the shape. So we don't have any poles, so that's good. We don't have to worry about any sort of pinching. And this is still pretty low poly, meaning we don't have that many edges and whatnot. So we could throw in some more edges around this horn. So say I threw in 2. Now I can go into sculpt mode with the grab brush and sort of just pull things around, soften with the smooth tool until I get the shape that I'm after. Could also use the inflate tool or the draw brush. And if you can't really see your edges, I recommend coming up here to this tab, turning on cavity, and just bumping up the ridge and valley. You should be able to see things a little bit better. And if this doesn't give you the result you want, maybe you need to extrude a few more faces down. So maybe this isn't far enough down. Maybe I need it to go a little bit further down, but that's kind of your call. It's not just a one go and it's perfect. But this is trailing right down the eyeball here, so I think this will do. So sort of the same idea with these little bumps, right? Let's go back into edit mode. I'm going to assume they're a little bit further in the center. Again, that's just a total assumption. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so let's start talking about these little ridges. I could possibly slide this down and scale up on the Z, or you need to ask yourself, do I need to add another edge loop in? Maybe I need to add another edge loop in. Now you can try pulling these up, right? Like you can try matching them up to these ridges, but I'll tell you, we don't have enough topology in order to maintain that kind of silhouette form. So my model is getting a little bit messed up here, and I'm going to go ahead and smooth it out a little bit. And my nostril's probably not in the correct spot, so just kind of quickly doing things here. All right, so now at this point, And let me go ahead and fatten this up. So here's the nasal cavity. I have my nose here. Again, it's probably not in the best spot. You could probably find a cleaner spot for it to actually go. But it looks like the ridges start somewhere near there. So I'll just say probably about here. Again, I don't want to extrude right next to an area that we've already insetted. So I'll go ahead and just sort of extrude, scale, and we could probably get away with doing these two together. So extrude. So what I'll do is with this selection, just go ahead and extrude and scale. And right next to this one, we'll go ahead and extrude and scale. And we may have another one here. And I'll give it some topology. So I'll do 2 loops. And if you think 2 loops is not enough, you can go ahead and throw in some more edge loops. And this might be a good point to sort of tweak the shape of everything. And you also don't really want to ever extrude something right in the center. Again, you could play around with the shapes, given that you've added enough edge loops in there to support those kind of bends and whatnot. So I'll just come in here and just start shaping this a little bit better. Cleaning things up. It's always a good idea to get, again, way more references than what I have, so you could actually see what the skull is supposed to look like. And then right in this area where we added this horn and next to the eyeball, I'll usually add in an inset to kind of hold that circular form. Now, I don't want to do that right here because we've already insetted and that will create a pull. So I'll just go ahead and add in another edge loop.
Okay.
So I'm thinking right about here, going to inset, and then I'll smooth that out. All these details that I'm doing, you want to do after you've created your form. I cannot stress that enough. And less is more. So now that I've added that in, I can go ahead and pull this area in relatively easily without crushing or ruining that form of the mouth. Of course, I'm turning this into sort of a speed run with the eyeball, but hopefully you're able to get the general idea, general gist of what we did up top. Another thing you don't want to ever forget adding in are the ears. I generally do forget, admittedly, adding those in. I'm not going to add them in here because this is just a fun little quick project.
So,
You'll also want to keep in mind that you still have to add in this gum area. And one thing that I like to do is have an edge loop that goes from here and pivots and then goes down the lip line. That gives you control. And one thing that I like to do is have an edge loop that I can control that goes from the top lip down along the bottom lip. So by doing that, you can kind of see where our vertex or vertices are going to go. I didn't mean to change that color. So we're going to have a vertex there, a vertex there. So the easiest way to do this would be to get out the knife tool, and you can just kind of knife like that and just hit enter. And go ahead and hide my notes. You're going to see that Blender's going to create a nice little edge for us that we can just go ahead and dissolve out. It's going to create another one. So I guess I'll just leave that in for the moment. But what I'll do is I'll get the knife tool and sort of continue from that vert all the way through. And now I can dissolve that edge out. Get the knife tool, cut through. Just like that. So now I can have control over adding, again, a loop around the mouth if I so need to. And these edges, I would likely pull a little bit more closer to the mouth, and then I can add in some topology here if I needed to. And this would be sort of a control loop. So I would add this as a freestyle edge so I don't accidentally mess with it in the future. You also need to create kind of this area here. So adding in an extra edge over here and then pulling, well, let me rephrase this. I'll go ahead and dissolve this out. Let me get rid of this edge so it doesn't confuse you. So we need to have a control edge for the form. So I'll add that in. So this is going to be our control edge. So I'll do a Control E, and I'm going to mark this as a freestyle edge. So I'm going to shape the control edge based on our reference. Something like that. Now I'm going to add in another edge and throw it next to our control edge. And this other edge is going to get pulled into the face, just like that. So you can see, again, our control edge is maintaining the form. just like that.
And
Now, again, we have all of these loops trailing down the body, and this is not something that you probably want. So you'll have to decimate edges, kind of play around with edge flow. So, I might want to do this. And you have to be a little bit strategic where you're doing this. I'm just doing this as an example. But you could see I just got rid of 2 edges where they weren't really needed. So with this area here, we can definitely end this maybe back here. Something like that. Another thing you'll want to do is throw in like a subdivision or something and just see how things are looking. I could turn off optimal display and we can hop into edit mode and you should be able to see how things are kind of rerouting. Is there any sort of pinching? Shade it smooth. Take a look around. Because again, if you have any sort of poles, let's just say right here, this is where we insetted. You could see we have 5 edges going into that vertex. So maybe if I started extruding around here, things might start looking pinchy, but you'll only know that if you hop into, subdivision mode, start increasing those levels of sub D, take a look around, see how your mesh is looking. Sometimes those poles are fine, but in certain areas, they can really be problematic, especially in areas such as this. But go around and see how things are looking. But yeah, I'm going to leave this video off here. I just wanted to kind of show you how I would do some workflow things. I hope that made sense. Of course, we haven't modeled the inside of the mouth, and the lips are a whole nother sort of area to tackle, but hopefully this made sense. I do have a Dinosaur Fundamentals course that I am currently working on. If you would like to stay updated with that, I recommend signing up with your email on my website. I'll go ahead and link that in the description and probably show an image somewhere, possibly. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this and you learned something from it. Let me know if you have any questions or anything that I can clarify a little bit better. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.